Robert did not have the guts to enter the apartment. He decided to sit outside and called Oliver, but the phone was off past a few hours, but his friend did not contact him. Robert decided to go to the apartment to get the keys from his parents' house and to go to their place for the night. At the door, he hesitated for a moment if he should go in or if he should go to his friends, but he did not want to look like a coward. He was crouching in his room and heard Oliver's voice. He instantly realized he was the victim of a practical joke, getting mad. Robert turned around and heard rustling in the kitchen and went there, but Oliver had locked himself in and would not talk to him, mad, hungry, and angry. Robert went into his room to change his clothes. He opened the closet and saw Oliver. He was dead. At that moment, someone grabbed Robert by the neck and his eyes began to darken. It is scary when young people die. It is even scarier when these deaths are unexplained. The doctors made their diagnosis. The psychics insisted on the hypothesis of a ghost, but it did not matter as people passed away. Watch out for your fears and do not let them overwhelm you. Robert did not have the guts to enter the apartment. He decided to sit outside and called Oliver, but the phone was off past a few hours, but his friend did not contact him. Robert decided to go to the apartment to get the keys from his parents' house and to go to their place for the night. At the door, he hesitated for a moment if he should go in or if he should go to his friends, but he did not want to look like a coward. He was crouching in his room and heard Oliver's voice. He instantly realized he was the victim of a practical joke, getting mad. Robert turned around and heard rustling in the kitchen and went there, but Oliver had locked himself in and would not talk to him, mad, hungry, and angry. Robert went into his room to change his clothes. He opened the closet and saw Oliver. He was dead. At that moment, someone grabbed Robert by the neck and his eyes began to darken. It is scary when young people die. It is even scarier when these deaths are unexplained. The doctors made their diagnosis. The psychics insisted on the hypothesis of a ghost, but it did not matter as people passed away. Watch out for your fears and do not let them overwhelm you. When I was 16, my friends, Sasha, Grynia, and I stayed in the subway at night, the Circle Line. It was at the end of the wild 90s. The police didn't really keep an eye on things back then. We took lanterns, food, cards, kindling, matches, and penknives. In the evening, we entered the tunnel, when there were few people and nobody noticed us. We jumped on the tracks and rushed into the tunnel, expecting a chase, but there was no chase. We walked maybe 100 meters and went into a side tunnel. You could see it from the train up to the station. When we were already far away, it got a little frightening. Complete darkness, only the rays of lanterns on the walls, the distant rumble of trains, the hum in the pipes that run along the walls. I was already regretting that I had agreed to this. And my friends fell silent. And so we walked. We walked for quite a long time. We didn't find anything. But the most unpleasant thing was that I noticed one thing. The rails were rusty, which means that the trains had not run on them for a long time. Everyone noticed that. We decided to make a halt. It was already to midnight. It was dark. We could hear only our sniffles. The flashlight illuminated only some meters of the tunnel, and it was in total darkness. It was an amazing sight, I tell you. We were sitting and wondering what to do next. To go forward? We decided to go forward. If there is a place, we will stay overnight, and if we do not find anything within an hour, we will go back. We were walking, shining, and suddenly the flashlight stopped, feeling the walls. The beam just went into the void. It turned out to be a station, but the station was unlit and abandoned. Ordinary concrete columns, a high ceiling, a couple of centimeters of dust. There is no second track. In its place is a wall with no drawings or any names. But our track, from which we had come, went through the entire station, and out the other side of the tunnel was blocked by bars wrapped with barbed wire. Only under the ceiling was a hole, but we wouldn't fit through it. We shone a light behind the bars. As much as our flashlight power was enough, we could see the rails. We were glad that we had found a place to spend the night. We went along the station. We saw a pile of boxes next to one of the columns. We approached and shook off the dust. Ordinary army boxes with an inscription SA. We were glad, but in vain. The boxes were empty, but old, rotten, the most suitable for fire. Wood. We kindled a fire, got cards, food, mood improved. The fear was gone. We sit and talk. We went to bed. There was total darkness around and a little glowing embers in it. The guys next to me were twisting from side to side, trying to sleep. I lay there staring at the embers and thinking about how I could get home sooner. So I fell asleep. A piercing scream woke me up. I didn't even immediately realize where I was and what was going on. The scream continued, turning into shrieking and mate. It was Grynia. He was sitting beside Sanja, holding his leg. "Are you out of your mind? It hurts." He took his hand away, and we saw the hole in his pants and the wound under it. Sanja babbled, "It wasn't me, come on, I was asleep. Max, are you kidding me?" I gritted my teeth when I said that I was asleep myself and that I didn't understand a thing. I fumbled for my flashlight, but my hands were shaking so much that it was a big problem to turn it on. "You take me for a fool." And then Grin's voice was suddenly interrupted by hysterical laughter from somewhere above. We jumped up from our seats. "What is it?" "Run!" I finally turned on my flashlight and dazed. There was a kind of fog all around us. The cryptic laughter had become just plain crazy by now. Sonic ran into the tunnel. Grynia looked at me with tears in his eyes. I tried to get up myself, but my legs were shaky. Grynia grabbed my arm and I dragged him after me. Some growls mingled with laughter. I dragged Grishka after me. We raced through the tunnel. He ran quite briskly, despite the wound in his leg. We were followed by laughter and growls, which were now many voices, but they were, thank God, distant. I don't know how long we ran, but we soon caught up with Sank, who was sitting crying against the wall. I kicked him to get him out of his stupor. Then we all walked toward the circle branch. Getting out without being noticed didn't work. Green needed help, and as soon as the train passed, I ran out of the tunnel for help. The police arrived, and Greena was assisted by a team of doctors. We were in trouble, of course, but not too badly. Some old man, who seemed to be in charge there, said that the fact that we got out alive was a good thing. Always be careful, or you will find out how fragile your own life can be. I pulled myself out of bed in the dark. A noise pulled me out of the embrace of sleep. I reached for the nightstand to unwrap the alarm clock. The numbers on it glowed dimly. 3 o'clock. I groaned. I was supposed to be sweet asleep now. Forgetting what had made me wake up, I turned back against the wall and made myself comfortable in bed when the sound came again. The muffled slap of footsteps in the attic, right above me, loud and deliberate. It was as if someone was walking around the attic and wanted to make their presence known. I jumped out of bed, my heart pounding frantically. Someone was in my house. Footsteps hushed over my closet. I stood in the middle of the dark room, the light from the clock illuminating only the nightstand on which it stood. I walked slowly out of the room and down the hall toward the closet from which I had gotten the old bat. I went back out into the hallway and watched the stairs leading to the attic. Whoever my intruder was, he couldn't get away. I held my breath, listening for noises. Nothing. I walked slowly up the stairs. There was a light on in the attic. I couldn't remember if I'd gone up to the attic today. Maybe I'd forgotten the light was on myself. Quietly as possible, I climbed the stairs and peeked into the cramped attic to see that no one was there. Only old junk. I breathed a sigh of relief. I must have imagined it. When you're alone in the dark, you often imagine things. With a chuckle, I turned off the light and went back to bed. I'd barely closed my eyes when I heard the slapping sound again, just as loud as before, but this time closer to the center of the room. I jumped up, angry rather than frightened, and rushed up the stairs with the bat in my hand. With a kick, I knocked over boxes, hitting a pile of old clothes. Nothing. I massaged my temples as I walked down the stairs. Too much nerve wasting at work. Probably better take tomorrow off. As I approached the door to my room, I felt strange. Fear came over me, and I stopped and reached for the doorknob, but immediately pulled myself back. I was being silly. I should get some sleep and I'd feel better. I rubbed the bridge of my nose, turned on the light, and went to bed. Slam. I pulled my hands sharply away from my face, glancing up at the ceiling. Now, with the light on, I could see him. His body seemed a mockery of the human form. It was bent and twisted, his head turned at an unnatural angle, empty gaps in place of his eyes. Before my eyes, it slapped its palm on the ceiling and pulled closer to me. Slap. I burst out a panicked laugh as it smashed the light bulb on the ceiling, the only source of light, plunging the room into darkness. I hadn't lost my mind. How was I supposed to know? Slap. It walked on the ceiling. I moved to another city. For many years, I unsuccessfully tried to sell the house and get some money. Nobody wanted to buy for unknown reasons. One day, doing a pre-sale inspection of the house, my realtor and I found the following picture. Everything was ruined, especially my room. The new owner of the house had remodeled the house for himself. This amazing story, which once again proves that not everything that happens in our lives can be explained in terms of logic. Subscribe to the channel, get a like, and I was with you. And mystical stories.